Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. I love talking to authors because they have the courage to take their thoughts and their stories, put it down in a book, and share it with the many, ultimately changing their legacy and destiny in the process. So, if you have a book that's underway or you want to write a book, check out dreamstarterspublishing.com. We can help you out with wherever you're at in the process. And if you have a book you want to generate leads with it to grow your business, check out bookmarketingcrm.com. And this podcast is going to be, I think, an exciting one because it's somebody who might not share my sentiment for capitalism. And you know that I just think it's the greatest thing ever. It's wealth through servitude. You only become wealthy if you help enough people get to where they want to go. So if you're listening to this podcast, most likely you want to start a business or grow it. And I would assume you're a friend of capitalism. But stay tuned for this podcast because this person may say something different. The book that we're talking about is called Capitalism and Desire, the Psychic Cost of Free Markets. And we're honored to have the author today with us, Todd McGowan. Thanks so much for number one, coming on, but number two, having the courage to even respond to an email that is obviously pro-capitalism. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, I respond to everything. So it didn't take any courage on my part.
All
It was
right,
nice.
good.
It was nice of you to reach out to me. So that's,
Well, thanks for being here, man. Let's start off with the genesis of this book. What made you want to write it? And if you maybe want to even start with your journey, what made you go from where you started to where you're at now and preaching this blasphemy?
okay. So I grew up actually in the Midwest, and my dad was like a real ardent capitalist, and then an encounter with, I don't know, whatever, Marx or something. It's very cliched in college, sort of turned me a little bit against that, and it kind of created a little bit of tension between us. But then the genesis of this book, which is more to the point, is that I'm very invested in Freud and psychoanalysis, and there have been a lot of attempts to think about capitalism in psychoanalytic terms, but always thinking about it in terms of repression. Like capitalism causes our desires to be repressed, and so that's the reason to think that it's problematic. And I thought, well, what's missing about that is the way that, and this is something I think you'll, and people that listen to this will probably like that. I thought of it as like, what is it that is appealing about capitalism? Like, why are they libidinally attached to it? And so that's the genesis of the book. Like to think about, can you think about capitalism critically from the idea of its success and its appeal, not how it's like repressive and horrific and all the horrific things that a lot of the people of my ilk are chalk up to it. So
Yeah.
that was really the kind of way that I got into thinking about the book.
Beautiful. So it sounds like your dad was a diehard entrepreneur. Number one, what was it about his lifestyle that maybe drew your curiosity to Karl Marx, which is not a big fan of being free to build whatever you want and keep the reward. So what was about that? And then also, yeah, let's start off with that question, I guess.
Yeah, well, okay, two things. So first of all, Marx thinks that capitalism is both the best thing that ever happened to humanity and the worst. So he's not he's not just of one, he's not just critical, right? So he does think both things. My dad was a so this is an interesting thing. So he died at my age, exactly my age right now, of a aortic aneurysm, and he was a total failure. As like he his all his businesses made all his attempts at business lost money. So we didn't have a lot of money because of his investment in that. So I the local paper, we wrote the obituary to my brother and me, and we said the last line was, we wrote, he was a man destroyed by capitalism, and you were supposed to be free to write whatever you wanted, but they just edited it out. They cut it out. It was just censored. There's like no freedom to say that. But that's what that was. But I'm not sure. I mean, you could psychoanalyze me, I guess, and say, oh, that's why you were drawn to a certain thing. But uh, I don't know that that's true. I mean, uh, everybody in my family was like, everyone I was surrounded by was like utter, you know, on the side of capital. So it was a very much, you said blasphemy. That's how my dad viewed it for sure. And everyone in my family.
Wow. So you're the oddball. You're the outsider.
Totally. Yeah. totally.
And did you distance yourself from your dad, or were you close
No,
with
no,
him?
no. We remained very close. In fact, he needed me to like one of his businesses like when something happened and he needed me to become the owner of it. And I'm like, look, I'm a Marxist. I'm not gonna. I'm a little. I wouldn't call myself a Marxist today, but I just said at the time, I'm not gonna be. And he's like, look, I need you to do it just as a. And so I just did it, and which was a terrible thing because when he died, I actually had $100,000 in debt that because I was the owner of the company, like no one knew that he was so I had the debt. So it was really a terrible thing of me for
Oh.
me to do. But anyway, that's again, I don't, that didn't, I mean, it was on the level of ideas, not on the level of like personal, whatever.
Well, how do you define capitalism? Let's start off with that because I have the cleanest definition that I found
Okay.
that I
Give me
adopted.
yours. Give me yours.
Wealth,
Give me yours.
wealth through servitude, the establishment of wealth and capital through servitude. That's it. What's yours?
No, I like that idea because I think too many people think of this idea of like capitalism identified with selfishness. And I think I really like your notion of like actually there's some kind of sacrifice involved, and that's part of the appeal of it. And that's actually something I talk about in my book. So, but what I would say is capitalism is just this for me. It's the society in which the commodity form dominates, which means that the commodity form is you invest in a commodity and it's the promise of more, right? Like that's the whole point. Like it's
That sounds like
always this.
consumerism. That sounds like Day of the Dead or what Dawn of the Dead, the movie, right?
No,
That's what it sounds like.
but isn't it? I thought you were going to go the other way because I think it's true. It's certainly true for the consumer that there's a promise of more in what you buy, but also it's what gets people to invest in any kind of any kind of product, right? Like they're invested in that commodity because it has the promise of more attached to it. Just think of businesses. Think of like you don't a business doesn't gain investors because it's profitable today. It gains investors because it has the promise of profitability tomorrow, right? Like
Yes.
that. And so that's for me, that is the logic of the commodity. And that's what, when that dominates in the society, that's a capitalist society.
Delayed gratification, right? There is a moment where you work today, you're rewarded tomorrow. And I
Well, the promise
believe
of more, like even no matter what you do today, you're promised more tomorrow, right? Like
yes.
that promise of more to me is the definition of capital. I also think it's the fundamental deception of capital, but that's a whole other thing.
Now, you are a fan of, I guess, maybe Psycho Cybernetics, which is an awesome book, by the way. I don't know if you've ever read that book, but just
I haven't read it.
psychoanalysis.
No, no.
Okay, Psycho Cybernetics, very capitalistic in nature, but I think you would like it. Just you like understanding how the mind thinks,
Sure.
and when you break it down, I mean, we're just basically these chemicals and certain drugs and things floating through us. Most likely, we're based off of dopamine, right? Humans are running off, especially men, are running off of this dopamine rush, and the reason why maybe we create these products that change the world or build these businesses that employ many people is because we get a dopamine rush that says, wow, you know what? If I work my ass off, I would be able to get the girl, the car, and the freedom. So I would argue that capitalism is the one system that spikes our dopamine more than others, that helps create all of the bells and whistles and all the beauty around us. So what say you when it comes to that?
Uh, I'd say a lot of things. Like, I'm not sure that like dopamine. I would explain like why we do what we do by dopamine rush. I also think that uh, that the problem with okay, like if your vision is true, let's say, like right, like it gets you the girl, it like or it gets you the guy, uh, it gets you the nice car, all these things that it gets you. Here's a problem, I think, right? Like when you get the thing, what do you find yourself? You find yourself like, wait a minute, there's actually another person that's even more attractive right around the corner that I'm looking at when I walk down the street. Or, I think somebody that sort of exemplifies this is on trial right now, right? Like married to someone who's very, I think, from all objective standpoint, attractive, and yet like looks to like pornography star for someone who's even better than them, right? Like, so I think that isn't there, like, to me, what you're saying is a virtue. To me, seems like a real, like, problem that you can't, that no matter how. satisfying the thing you find is, you can't take satisfaction in it because you're always looking for this next thing that has more attached to it. So like if
That's
I
human
if
nature
I
though, right? That's what you're saying.
why
That's
is that? No, no,
is
no, no.
that
I
human
don't think
nature?
that's human nature at all. Like my spouse, I'm married to her. Like I have never once looked at someone else and thought like, ooh, wow, I could that she's hotter than the person I'm married to. I'd rather be with her. Like I think like, look, my spouse like knows like Kant and Hegel. I find her very attractive too, but like psychoanalysis, like who else am I going to be with that has like I there's absolutely zero of me that thinks like there's something better around the corner. Zero. So I just would balk at that idea that that's human nature to
Oh.
always think to always want this better thing.
So yeah, and maybe all right. So that there's a difference, I think. So when we're talking about Trump, who has built an amazing company, whether you hate him or not, he is number 497 richest person in the world, they say, according to Forbes, right? He has done something.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to. I shouldn't have brought him up. Maybe I was just giving an example of
Right.
someone. I because I don't want to get into a Trump. I don't care about that. But my point is like even someone you think would be satisfied with their partner is still looking for this other person that's I don't know hotter, more intellectually stimulating. I don't know what. But that's my point. That like isn't that a defect of a system that doesn't allow you to take satisfaction in the thing that you have, right? Like, and it kind of skews your way of thinking about what you have. Like, do you know this? I'm sure you know this joke because it's such a since you're such a capitalist guy, but there's this like investment banker has just bought a new BMW, opens the door, right? He's in New York City, opens the door, and a cab drives by and takes the door off, and he like calls the cops immediately, jots down the cab's number. Cops come, and he's like, he's like, look, this is what happened to me. Here's the cab number. He's like, why aren't you jotting this down? Why aren't you paying attention to the lead I'm giving? And the cop looks down. He's like, look, you got bigger problems than your car door. You just lost your left arm. And the guy looks down. He goes, oh my god, I lost my Rolex as well. Right? It's like a great. I think it's like the perfect joke about capitalism, right? Because it like captures the way in which it doesn't just okay, yes, it does capitalize on the way that we desire, but it also skews that into like thinking like, oh, you can have more, you can have, and I don't know, but you're never gonna, no matter what the more is, you're never gonna be satisfied with it.
Well, more, I think is that word drives us though. Like, do you think Elon Musk does it for money at a certain point? I don't think so. Right? I mean, I'm around multimillionaires. At a certain point, it's not about the money, it's really about the legacy. And so people by just I think in their blood are doing things for more, right? The better the car, maybe it's a more of a reward for maybe more struggle. So if you build a business, there's more excitement, there's more adventure, right? Once you run out of that want for more, that's when you start to age inside. So more money, more buildings, whatever. I don't know if that's sort of a capitalistic flaw or just a human flaw, right? A man could have the best looking girl in the world. But if in his brain he just says, man, I'm never satisfied with this woman because she said something bad to me, I'm going to look elsewhere. That's not capitalism. That's a human flaw. That's a problem with their being insatiable, I guess. So,
How do you know that's not capitalism?
so
How do you know
I
it's not capitalism?
because my dog, when I had him, always wanted food. All right, and he always ate. He was a beagle. This guy would never stop eating, and so he always wanted more. Now that is not capitalism. That's a starvation in his brain that says if I don't eat, it's gonna be gone tomorrow. So I better eat now. So
Yeah,
I'm
but having a okay, eating seems a different thing to me. But I also think the way humans eat and the way animals eat is totally different, right? Like we're clear, and this would be, I think, one way in which we can see the effect of capitalism, right? Like, think about the way we eat. Like, we don't eat things that help us survive better, right? No one does, right? Like they eat. Like, do you think like, oh wow, I can't wait for this show to be done. I'm going to go home and have some broccoli. No, you don't think that. You think like, wow, maybe after I'm done, I'll go home, I'll have a piece of cake or I'll have
I
some
do.
cookies.
I eat healthy. I know a lot of
Okay,
capitalists that
okay,
eat
okay, okay.
healthy.
But there's no, I eat healthy too. My point is that there's no, we don't attach a kind of like enjoyment to that healthy eating that in the way that I mean it's like if it's just helping us to like there's the enjoyment is attached to something else.
Well, I think that, all right, so maybe there's a different value system. And what you're saying is not capitalistic because I know many Marxists that I grew up with. I went to school with these people. They got straight A's. They get out of school. They didn't do really well in the corporate space. They don't make that much money. They automatically go away from God. They go right into Marxism, but they still want more. They still want more sports. They still want more money. It has nothing to do with the capitalism inside them. It has to do with the brain always wanting more. And I think
Okay,
maybe
but
we're designed that way.
okay, but was I just a misdesign of God? Like because I don't feel that way. Like I don't want more. Like you if you said to me like, look, I'm going to send you $1 million right now, I'd say like, no thanks. Like I don't need it.
You,
I don't need
so
it. What?
yeah, but if I sent you $1 million and you were a great steward of money, wouldn't you say, great, thank you so much. I have a wife that would really need it, or a kid, or a poor person down the street.
No, no, no. I don't want to have it. I don't want to. I don't want the. I don't want it.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is where it's a very good playing field because
Okay.
I believe you have the right to do that. But for you to tell someone else they don't have the right to accept that $1 million, that's where the problem is. Capitalists are saying, hey, socialists, do whatever the heck you want to do. Just don't tell me what to do. Socialists are saying, hey, I don't really like what you're doing, so you can't do it because I don't like doing it. And there's the conflict.
Well, okay, Mike. Okay, it's a little bit. You depicted it a little bit of a kind of a slanted way, right? Because, like, look, we exist in a capitalist society that like creates all these ways in which it already is like what you're saying is like, oh, you can go do that thing. It's fine. We're just going to do our thing. No one's going to. But there's all these systems that are made so that you can do your thing. It's not just you doing your
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's not just okay, we're just each person's free to do their own thing. Like no, there's a whole structure that's allowing them to do
Yeah.
their own
So
thing.
there's a game being played. There are rules in
Right,
place,
right,
right?
right.
And I think that we're all playing, it's like a horse race, I guess is the best way to put it. And some people come right out of the gate and they're fast. They make millions of dollars. And then some people are slow starters and they make their money as time goes on, but eventually beat that horse. And then there are some people who don't even want to race at all, but they're at the starting gate and they say, you know what? I don't feel like running. I don't feel like putting energy into it. And all these races that are happening around me, the hell with them. Why do they deserve to do that? I don't feel like it. So I don't think they should feel like it. And all we're saying is that the structure is built in a way that the people who reap the rewards are usually those who sacrifice and create, right? And if you are not a capitalist, you don't have to play that game. You can give up, throw your hands in the air, and the government or somebody will come and save you. But
Do they?
I don't agree with having someone else be in control of your life. I believe in you are the hero of your own story. And capitalism is the greatest system that allows that, in my
But does
opinion.
capitalism really allow that?
Yes, absolutely. Where else can somebody come here with no money or go anywhere with no money and have the best chance of becoming a millionaire?
Okay, but
Look at,
think about okay. But my point is like you want to be free to like live the kind of life you want to live, right?
yes,
That is that what you would define that as freedom? Yes.
correct. Yes.
Okay, so you've already said you've already you it seems like you've defined capitalism as a system that's very restrictive, right? So first of all, you have to according to the way you even put it, you have to be desirous of money. Like that's number one. Like that has to be the thing that you want to do is make money. So if
Well,
you're someone who says
money is air. You need money to be free. Am I right?
why does it have to be? That's true in capitalist society. It wasn't true in hunting gathering societies, right?
Well,
It wasn't. It
yeah.
just wasn't true.
So if I was in the woods by myself and I didn't have anybody around me and there was nobody else in the world, money doesn't mean anything. But because it's a stored value that you can exchange for goods, for clothes, for houses, for cars, money does mean something that it can give you options. And so you can be a minimalist, and to some degree, I am a minimalist. I don't want a big mansion anymore. I want freedom to be able to go whenever, wherever. So I actually live in an apartment right now. I sold my house. And so there's a degree of minimalism in me, but I still want all the cars. I want the motorcycles. I want to be able to get on a private jet whenever I want. So money means something because it grants me options. And all I'm saying is capitalism gives you the most options.
Okay, but I don't think it does, because the very way. Okay, so money is the first thing, but let's like look at what, let's say you what you want to do, right? Let's say like my passion is to be a painter, right? Like I simply cannot in capital society. I mean, one in a million maybe can make it and make money, but basically, I can't do that. I got to go do something that capitalist society tells me is profitable,
Well, you
right?
touch on a good
So,
point. If
so
it's
you're
not
what you're saying
valued
is
by the market, if it's not valued by the market, you will not be rewarded. So
right. So
it
so there.
it
So
ties
that
in the
seems to
aspect that you need to serve the market more than yourself. You need to serve others. It's very
okay,
biblical.
but I don't think that's very funny to think. I love this, like capitalism is Christian. It's like
It
the
is.
opposite.
It absolutely is.
You can't really think that.
Adam
You can't
Smith
really.
and the founders of our country were very Christian.
That is
Very,
not
right?
true. They were all deists. Almost all of them were deists.
They built it off of Christian values. There is
They
no
were
doubt
deists.
about it.
Like Jefferson, like read notes on the state of Virginia. Like he's not a Christian. Like he's a deist. Like there, Ben
Maybe they're
Franklin wasn't a Christian.
maybe Christian isn't the exact term, but they're God-fearing men is probably the best way to put it, right? They were God-fearing. They put God in there, what, 52 times? Is that what it is? Something like that.
Fair enough, but my point is that, and I'm not sure that they were that the founding fathers are not necessarily figures of capital. Like they're figures of democracy. Those two things aren't synonymous in my mind,
Do
right?
you think we're a
So,
democracy? Real quick, do you think so?
uh,
Were we founded as
or
a
are we an
democracy?
oligarchy controlled by capital?
We
Is that
were,
what you would say?
I believe we're a constitutional republic. That's how we were founded.
That's fine. Whatever. I mean, I don't have. I don't. That just seems semantic to me. That's. That's
Democracy is
fine.
very different. Democracy is majority plus one, which we aren't
So, well, we are. Each election is democratic in this particular state.
in particular state, but as a constitutional republic with the states, I mean, there's ways to go about it, but technically, the United States of America is not a democracy. It's not. And you go to a you go to a country like Venezuela or whatever, you could say that that's a democracy because it's majority plus one across the board. But when you have different states, electoral
Okay.
votes, all that,
Yeah.
so that
Okay. Yeah. It's because it's too federalist. Okay. I see. I understand. That's fine.
okay, so
Um.
different topic.
But yeah. Okay. Republic. Whatever. But I guess my point is, I don't see how you could say that capitalism is Christian. Like where? How was Christ concerned with the accumulation of capital? It's like the opposite. It's like to give up your
Actually, he
if your
wasn't.
neighbor wants one of your cloak, then give him two. Like it's all about like abandonment of the commodity.
No, it isn't. He says, "Give to Caesar that to which is Caesar's. Give to God what is God's." And so he's against using the church to raise money for their own individualistic wants and needs. But basically, what he was saying is make your money however you want, but do not avoid or go away from what God wants. So the reason why I bring that up is because those who make a lot of money, from what I've seen, maybe not everybody, but they make a lot of money, they're the ones that are able to help the most people. And so, if you really want to break down the Bible and you talk about the story of the talents, God gave me or somebody else that I know the talent of making money and multiplying it. And it is in your best interest to be a steward of finances if you're given that resource to do it. So, who do I want to be in charge of my money? The person who's good with money. And maybe I'm the best in it that I know that's able to produce it. And if God gives you this talent, why would you go against it? Why would you say, hey, I've been given this ability to do X, Y, and Z, but because this person over here says they don't want me to make that talent known to the world, then I can't do it. No, I'm
But
a
what about?
freedom guy.
I just wonder what you do with Matthew. Like it is harder for the rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than for the camel to pass through the eye of the needle. Right? Like, what do you do with that?
So rich man, I think is you could decipher that throughout the Bible. I'm not a scholar when it comes to everything in the Bible, but when it comes to that scripture, it's more so about the rich man as in keeping everything to himself. That's a different thing, right? The rich
Oh,
man
so
of
okay, all
being
right, all right.
selfish, of self-interest. Now, a story of Matthew also. Those who have everything, more will be given. To those who have nothing, everything will be taken. Very, very capitalistic. If you have a skill set and you have momentum on your side, you're going to adopt and get rewarded with all the bells and whistles, all the resources, all the opportunities. But if you're not a strong believer and if you do not use your tools and resources well, you're going to lose everything, your
Yeah,
soul, your
but
friends, your money, all of it.
I couldn't disagree more. I feel like does a rich person ever have a friend?
Yes.
I don't think
Yes.
they do. I think a rich person can have a friend because they
Well,
never know, are they genuinely their friend or are they actually just there because of the money?
that's a
Right? I
good
think it's
question.
no, it's
So
very sad to me. I feel bad for the wealthy. I do not have envy for them in any possible way. I just feel bad for them because I think they never know. If you're wealthy, you never know if someone really loves you. You never know if someone's really your friend. You don't, even your family wants you to die so that they can get your money. Like, I think it's a very, very sad and lonely position. And that's, I mean, to me, if I were wealthy, I would that would make me more of an anti-capitalist than I am already. I just think it's very sad. I think it's sad.
well,
And I think the fact that you can never be satisfied with what you have, I mean, okay, you can chalk it up to human nature, but that seems like a cop out because I can point to thousands of other societies where that wasn't true, where everyone didn't want more all the time. So it seems odd that it just in capitalist society, we people have identified that. Nobody was talking about everybody wanting more, and Plato never talked about that. Never once mentioned, oh, it's human nature to want more. What was Plato stupid? No, he just did. That society wasn't structured that way,
well, you
right?
talk about Plato and the allegory of the cave. You could equate that with wealth. You could say the people who are you familiar with this allegory?
Okay,
Yeah,
Mike, I'm not an idiot. Yes, okay,
yeah,
yes,
right. The
I've read the
prisoners.
Republic like 5 times. Yes, I know the
The
allegory of the cave. Yes.
It's an amazing guys. Read it. Right, Plato's allegory of the cave, and
You could read the whole Republic. It's worth your time. It's one of the greatest books ever written.
okay, so we're on the same page. It's a
Yeah,
Socratic method. It's in us, right? Asking questions. All right. So when it comes to the allegory of the cave, you're talking about an individual who's chained up, eventually breaks free, leaves the cave, sees everything that's possible. They have the sun, they have all the tolls and bells and whistles that life grants them. And they say, man, I have all these skills and viewpoints and perspectives and solutions. It's my moral obligation to go back to the prisoners and set them free. And therefore, I need to write books. I need to get on stage. I need to build businesses that give people the solution so they can take the damn neck chains off their neck and become free themselves. And so
yeah,
capitalists are the ones that are out there writing the books, profiting from their books, and then helping others do the exact same thing, ultimately completing the hero's journey. So as you go through the hero's journey, which I know you're very familiar with, Joseph Campbell's
sure.
outline of every story that really resonates with us, the hero's journey, we're all on it. We go from a familiar world to an unfamiliar world, back to the familiar world. But that what completes that is you become the mentor for someone else. And if you find your gold, it's your moral obligation to reach back and help others find their gold and obtain it. And I
Yeah,
think
but
capitalism is the
Socrates
greatest
wasn't
system to do
finding
that.
gold. He saw the light. The light isn't gold. How do you read wealth into Plato? I mean, like, look, you got enough guys on your side, right? Adam Smith, David
Yes.
Ricardo. Yeah, you got a plenty of guys. Milton Friedman, Ayn Rand. You got
Yes.
plenty. So leave us Plato. Like he's Plato's concerned with truth. He's not concerned with making money. The light is the truth, and the people that are chained by idiot by. I mean, you probably know this, but a lot of Marxists read the allegory of the cave as what Marx is doing, and people are chained by capitalist ideology, and Marx comes back down in and tries to set them free. So the idea that that is some kind of allegory for the capitalist. I mean, like, come on,
Well, come
like
on.
you keep
Marxism
your people. You keep your
Marxism is
people.
is about equal outcome, not equal opportunity. Am I right?
Well, I don't. I think Marxism is like I'm not a Marxist, so I'm not defending Marxism. But my Marxism is about free. It's a philosophy of freedom. It's a philosophy of trying to free people from a certain ideological, social uh, imprisonment. That's what
Well,
it is.
it's basically I think it's class warfare also. But regardless, there's Marxism, socialism, capitalism are the three big ones, right?
Right. I mean, so we'd have to define what socialism is to you, right? Like, I think it means a lot of different things to a
And
lot of different.
communism is one more. Yeah, sorry, communism. They're
Well, communism and Marxism, I'm not sure if you can differentiate
very
between those.
close. You're exactly right. Yes.
I mean, Marx is the founding figure of comment. I mean, he wrote the Communist Manifesto, right?
So what I'm getting at is capitalism is all about, hey, you have the ability to go after whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want. You have the ability and the choice to do so. But we will never guarantee outcome. And the moment that somebody says we're going to guarantee outcome, now you're restricting people because I will say if I went to play hockey against Sidney Crosby, or he's going to destroy me simply because he has talents, he has resources, he has skill level, he has work ethic, he has a want to be better. I will never be able to compete. So to say that we're both going to get 10 goals this game if we played each other, I don't know if you know who Sidney Crosby is. He's a great.
Of course, I know who Sidney Crosby
Okay,
is.
so a hockey player.
Yeah.
Thank God you do you know that. Some people don't even know hockey at all. But anyways,
No, I
that's
know.
equal
I know hockey
outcome.
quite
That's
well. Yes.
communism. It's all going to be equal. So put your faith in us, the government. And here's where I get a little bit crazy. Capitalism is the one that's all about God has given me the tools and resources, not the government. Every other system is the government grants you the abilities and the wherewithals to make it possible. So I'll leave the floor for you now because there's a lot at you.
Okay. Well, the problem is that it's not okay. It's not. I agree that under capitalism, it's not necessarily the state determining what your fate is, right?
Correct.
But it's big capital. So you think that's better? You think that's better? I don't think that's
It
better.
is.
I think it's actually quite worse. But
If
but
if a homeless guy sits there and says, "How could I help somebody?" You know what? I could shine somebody's shoes, and I'm going to charge a $50 per shining of a shoe. I don't need anybody's permission. I could do that. Now, you get into the accounting, you're going to say, "Well, my business partner is the government, so I need to take 20% and give to the government, and then if I want, I could do whatever the heck I want with the rest of the money." But you have the freedom to do that at any time at a
you don't
small
though, Mike,
level or a big level.
because isn't your freedom? I mean, it seems like you don't imagine that your freedom is circumscribed by what's possible, right? Like a homeless person in Burlington, Vermont, this is where I live, couldn't shine anyone's shoes because no one cares about their shoes being shined. So and there's also a way in which, and this is I think Marx is exactly right about this, and I think even most capitalists accept this. I mean, there's a certain level of unemployment that's structurally necessary, right? Structurally necessary so that inflation doesn't skyrocket. So there are certain, like you can say, like, oh, it's these individuals to blame because they're not hardworking enough, but they need to be unemployed for us to have the life that we have. Like if
Why?
everyone, why? Because
Yeah.
if there's full employment, what happens?
If there's
What
full
happens under full employment?
if there's full employment, people are taking care of their families and being rewarded for work, right?
No, but
And
it's
learning a
economically
discipline.
not viable. Inflation skyrockets under full employment.
How?
If there was how because look, if there's not a bunch of people vying for a single job and an employer has to offer it to who just the one person that wants it, that person can demand much more money for the job. Salaries skyrocket, prices skyrocket. There's never been that there can't be full employment under capital. You can't name one time in capital society when there's been full employment. There's been periods of incredibly high unemployment, but you cannot tell me one period where there's been full employment and it structurally has to be that way. So
But
you can
wouldn't that
say
be
like,
based off of the market determining the prices? And it's the market, not the government determining them. Like so
well,
inflation,
okay,
the only
cares?
person
It
that can
doesn't
cause
matter for the
inflation is
unemployment.
government. Government's the only creator of inflation, right? They print more money that causes the devaluing of the dollar and the inflation of assets. Government's the only one that can create inflation
You really think that all inflation is created by government? So why are they doing it?
because they want to keep people poor. The government, there's a structure in place to keep. They want to get rid of the middle class, and the reason
So
why is because
why during the Depression was there massive deflation? Why did the government do that?
do you think that the
I mean, what was
the
the strategy then?
so you're so explain to me what happened then during that
It
when it
was
comes to
massive
inflation?
deflation. In other words, your money, your dollars became much more valuable, but they were harder to get.
Unemployment was at an all-time high. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So therefore, there was less circulation of money,
Right.
right?
I understand that. And my point is, what was the government's strategy in doing that? If you think
I
it's all, you think inflation and deflation are always controlled by the government. That's what you just said. So
yeah,
my question is, what was the strategy? Was it like, why have, you're saying they use inflation to eliminate the middle class? Okay, that seems crazy, but
correct.
okay. Uh, uh, what was the strategy during the Depression? Was it why this deflation?
Well, let's go back. I'm going to take one step further. So, Federal Reserve created 1912. All right. As
Yeah.
soon as that happens, that is the beginning of the end for the middle class. You go to 1929, and there's less belief in the banks. People pull it out. They probably were shaken to the core of what the hell was happening. I think it was a total, I guess you could say, maybe reflex of what was happening with the belief in banks at the time. Right afterwards starts World War II, gets us off of what, gets us back into we got to stand up for the government and protect it, very much like a distraction. Printing of money started to happen a little bit more. Jobs were created because of the government. And you move it forward to 1971, you take us off the gold standard completely. That's the real beginning of the end for the middle class because they can print at will, no problems. I think they got smarter in time and they say the more we print, the poorer people get. So 1929, I think it was in the early stages. I don't know if it was well thought out. I think it was enough people not believing in banks anymore.
So I don't. Okay, for one thing, I think that economically, uh, the government is printing money in response to the economic situation. It's not like creating it ad hoc. Like you think that they're just like people. There's certain bureaucrats in Washington that are just deciding the fate of the economy. That's
Yes.
just
Yes.
really. But I thought you just said that we live in a capitalist society where everyone can like determine their own fate, and that's great. And but you also have this conspiracy theory that there's these bureaucrats in Washington just determining our fate. This
Yeah.
seems like an odd marriage, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, what they're trying to do is get us away from capitalism. So these bureaucrats that
Why?
are in
Why?
Washington,
Why?
because the ones in government are rewarded whenever it goes to socialism and communism. It takes away the power of the people to go after their dreams, to build wealth, to be free, to not listen to the media, to not rely upon corporate jobs, to be completely free to do whatever they want. Therefore, I could laugh when somebody says, Mike, you better take the vaccine. Oh, well, who's going to tell me? I don't have to. I work for myself. Well, you can't go to this state. I'll fly private. Don't worry about it. don't worry. You can't scare somebody who's totally free.
So
But
you don't believe in okay. You don't believe like public health to you is not that the government shouldn't concern itself with public health.
I don't believe a bureaucrat in Washington, if it knows more about my body than I do. I believe that. And I believe doctors that I know who are my clients, if I ask them directly and they say, hey, do not listen to the media, do not listen, I would say, yeah, you know what? I trust you because you're a health expert. Why don't you say that on social media? Oh, if I said that, I'll lose my license. Oh, okay. So you got to keep it shut. But therefore, they control the narrative in the public eye. That's the government owning media, banks, and
Government
the
owns
health
media?
world.
What how does the government own the media? Elon
Oh,
Musk
come on. Come
Elon Musk is
on.
owned by the
Have you ever heard
government?
of Operation Mockingbird?
No, I don't want to hear this. I mean, I
Google
don't want to
it.
hear it.
Google it.
I don't.
It's proven. The CIA infiltrated media companies in the 60s. It's 100%. They
Okay,
admitted to it.
but this not like some infiltration by the CIA. I mean,
Yes.
okay, so what? It's not
So
like
you're
they're
telling me that the
controlling
government
things.
going into the media companies in the 60s doesn't scare you at all?
No, I don't care about that.
Oh, come
I'm
on.
much. I mean, I just don't have this like total. I don't have this fear of like the state. Like I don't fear the state. I think the problem. I mean, we're on this. We're so opposed because my feeling is The problem with the state is nowhere near strong enough today. Like I have exactly the opposite view as you. Like I think like you brag like I didn't get the shot. Like I think that's like to me that's like negligence on the part of the state. Like I
Have
think
you watched
this.
CNN recently? They're saying that there are way more problems with the vaccine than they ever
So
thought.
what? I don't even care about that. My
Wait,
point
why
is,
though? Wait, they're admitting they're wrong. They thought
okay, so what?
Cuomo,
So
Chris
what? They didn't
Cuomo's
know
out there
that at the
saying that he's
time.
vaccine injured and he actually regrets taking it.
Okay, I accept that. Like, look, every vaccine, people look like the vaccine against smallpox, it killed a certain number of people, right? But it also rid us of one of the most deadly diseases in human history,
Yeah, but
right? So like, okay, yeah, you're right. A few people were killed by it. So does that mean they shouldn't have developed it?
in
No.
in 3 weeks, yeah, I think it takes. I think
Okay,
it
well,
should be
look, like,
studied and tested for years. The fastest vaccine ever created before 2020 took 4.5 years, and I believe that was in 1968 or something. For I forget what it is, but there's a vaccine
okay,
that's the
fair enough, fair enough.
fastest.
Look, I understand. Like things were done rapidly, but that was to try to re-normalize the society. So it seems like it was done. I don't know. I don't think like it was done in the name of like bad acting, like in the name of like controlling people.
You don't
I think
think, and by the way, this is
no, in
where
fact,
you could get some punches in. You don't think that pharmaceutical companies profited big time through the capitalistic nature that if they sell it to the people will buy it, making multiple billionaires overnight? You don't think that's possible?
yeah, no, I know. I have all my leftist friends like they hate the pharmaceutical companies. I'm not a
I
fan of
like
the
your
pharma.
friends then. Jeez, I can't believe
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, no,
saying that.
you would like them more than me. Uh, uh, look, I'm not for the pharmaceutical companies, obviously, but I think there was a genuine effort to respond to a genuine public health crisis, and uh, I feel like that's the obligation. That's what the look like. Okay, we can differ about like. I think the state should have a lot more control over existence than you do. That's that we differ about that.
Yeah.
But I think we could can't we agree that the state should be concerned about our public health and like and make sure that there's not like toxins and like like you're proud of the private jet that you fly. Like what if the jet that you fly creates warming to such an extent that the planet ceases to be habitable for the rest of the country, then that means that it's not just your own private act of freedom, right? But it's affected the public health of everyone. And that's where I think it's the obligation of the state to do something because it's all what we have in common. Like you're not just polluting your own little private space, you're like polluting everybody's space. And so that seems like I don't know, it seems like the state needs to like big capital's not going to stop that from happening. So it seems like the state has to do something, right? I
Well,
mean, unless you think that like warming is just this kind of myth made up by, I don't know, 99.9% of the scientists that investigate it. I mean,
I'm a fan of decentralization. So I'm not against, public health or doctors. I'm against it being centralized and they have to play by a certain role set by 50 people in a room that are bought and paid for by special interest. So the school system, that's centralized now. The pharmaceutical world and the health world, the moment Obamacare takes place, it's now part of the government. So who reaps the rewards? Is it the people? I don't know. I say if that's the case, I don't think it should be universal because I believe everybody should have the freedom to make the right choices for their own body, right? And now we can get into all kinds of topics on that, but freedom of choice is really what matters when it comes to you and your body alone, not hurting any other living organism.
okay,
So
but what about but then your private jet flight, sorry, it is hurting a lot of other living organisms.
that is up for opinion. All right. And the reason
You
why I
think it
say
really is
that,
up for opinion?
yes,
How is that up for opinion?
the reason why I say that is because if you actually look into some studies out there, it shows that there is no difference in the temperature from 1500 years ago,
Okay,
2000 years. It's
okay.
impossible. We are only able to calculate what the past 100 years, and the measurements and calculations in the past 100 years are shoddy at best. Nobody knows. And if you really want to get into the crazy aspect of it, we're on a ball, right? They say we're on a ball going 66,000 miles per hour in space. And you want to tell me that if I stop running the lawnmower and driving my car and flying private, like all of the other super big names in the climate change world, you mean to tell me that if I stop doing that, I'm going to change the temperature of the sun on this planet? Come on. I was born at night, but not at last night. You know that, right?
I just have no idea how to respond to that. I mean, it's not like a matter of debate. Like the like all you know, have you seen these like blocks of ice falling off of Antarctica? I mean, there's not like it's not like a they didn't that's not made up by the media. And like, sorry, I mean, this is the point where I think your radical individualism doesn't see the way in which you're part of a collective. So yeah, you're right. Like one person doing what you're doing, sure, that doesn't make a difference. But when you license like 100,000 people to do what you're doing, then that does make a difference.
Well, if you go back in time here, 1970, 77, they said, if you look at the reports, it's pretty crazy. Global cooling was the problem. Global cooling. Now, go to 1983. There are reports that say global warming is now an issue. And what they said is spot on with what I hear in the news today. We have 9 years until our planet is now under siege because of the temperature changes. And I believe all of this is in place to distract us and to reap
Okay.
our resources. So if you really want to change the environment and the planet and all that stuff, clean your room like Jordan Peterson. Start with your house. What are you doing? Are you filtering your water? All right. If you don't believe in this stuff, if you're not a big fan of, I see you have an Under Armour shirt. Now, if you look into how Under Armour does business, do you agree with everything they're putting out there? Start to vote
No,
with your
but
dollars, right?
no,
Start
no,
to
no, no,
only
no. I don't
support.
care about that. I don't care about that in the slightest. Like you just said, like you just made it's funny. Like it's so contradictory what you just said, and I hope people see this because you said you said you said uh my little actions they don't. I'm just one person, this big planet going around. They don't make any difference. And then what can I do to Under Armour? Like, are you kidding me? Like, oh, Todd McGowan, he stopped buying our shirts, so we're gonna not exploit workers in
No,
Indonesia
I'm saying
anymore.
you can fight back by doing what you think is best. But the way I look at it is I laugh at people saying you can't fly private whenever you got the Hollywood stars who are all about climate change flying private. You have
I'm
all of
totally
them.
against.
Yeah,
Totally
right?
against.
BlackRock,
I'm not
Larry
hypocritical.
Fink, Bob Iger from Disney, all for climate change. You know how they
Right.
travel? They
No, I
travel
know.
with
I
the
know.
baddest private
Of course.
jets.
Of course. I'm totally against. I agree. I agree. The utter hypocrisy. Totally
Yes,
on your side
we're
on
on the
that.
same page then there.
On that. Totally. Totally.
If
DiCaprio,
what
all
about all the politicians that are on your side talking about climate change? You know where they
who's on my
buy their
side?
property?
Who's on my side?
Oh, you're talking about Obama, right? I bet Obama's
I'm
on your
not. When
side.
did I say I was on the Obama side?
Wow, because okay, so my mistake. I thought you would be, but let's just say,
No, I'm like real leftist, man. Like I'm not like a Democrat. Yeah,
you're real leftist. Yeah. So
yeah,
give me an
yeah.
example. Are you a Bernie Sanders real leftist?
Of course, I love Bernie.
Okay, so Bernie Sanders is a capitalist.
Well, I mean, he calls himself a democratic socialist.
Yeah, but do you realize how much money he makes? Do you realize this?
I know how
He's a
much he
millionaire.
makes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, a
You know what he's
million. Yeah,
for?
but I mean,
$15 minimum wage. You know how much he pays his staff? Less than $15. Hypocrisy.
okay, Bernie. If you knew him, I know Bernie. So he's one of the least hypocritical guys I've ever met in politics. Like you really, you picked the wrong target there because he's like the most humble living guy you could imagine. He,
Okay. All right. Go back. And I'm not picking on Bernie. By the way, in 2016, I had friends that were all Bernie supporters, and I at least respected them because he was still somewhat of an outsider. All right. And we were against the system in the same way. I was a Trump guy. They're Bernie Sanders supporters, and I respected them. But the moment Bernie Sanders gets treated so poorly by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic machine, and then they support Hillary Clinton and the Democratic machine, blows my mind. Anyway, so I'm not totally against everything
well, I
that
mean,
Bernie
the
Sanders
same thing
says.
happened on the Republican side, didn't it? I mean, like a number of people, like Rubio had his genitalia mocked by Trump, and he turned around and supported Trump. Ted Cruz. Trump accused his dad of assassinating Kennedy, and he demonstrated his abject fealty to Trump. I mean, I think that kind of thing happens all the time politically.
Well, I believe Bernie beat Hillary, in my opinion, but the machine took over, in my opinion. So,
I
regardless,
don't think that, but whatever.
Bernie Sanders, watch his speeches. He always said the millionaires never pay their fair share. And then if you watch how his net worth breaks a million, he changes his lexicon. He changes it from millionaires need to pay their fair share to billionaires. He just moved the needle, right? Watch his language now or listen to his language. It is pretty special that he did a sleight of hand. And so my
Okay.
my phrase is there, he's just a politician who is definitely a Marxist, in my opinion. He leans that way.
Yeah,
And
he's a socialist. Okay,
and
whatever.
but he has these capitalistic things where, oh, let me make my money and let me pay my staff whatever I think they're worth rather than what I'm saying they're worth. And so like there's a lot of I don't believe in those type of people, right? So I see that I'm like,
Okay,
it doesn't make sense.
fair enough.
But regardless, when you see that, you have to say he's not true to himself as a full
Sure,
Marxist,
fair
right?
enough. Fair enough. I think that like people betray their ideals all the time, and that doesn't mean that they don't hold those ideals. They're not equal to them, right? Like I think that happens to the best people.
So we both agree that we'll probably never agree on capitalism.
Correct.
But what is your solution? Tell me you got a solution in this book that will help us find the way then. Do you got
No, I
something?
don't know. I mean, what? No, I don't. I have no. I don't necessarily have a solution. I mean, I think we should have like a more egalitarian society where people are more taken care of, and I don't know. It's probably something like a little capitalism and a little socialism together, something like that. I mean, I don't have like a. I'm not a radical communist or anything. I'm a radical Marxist, but I do think like we need a more egalitarian society, or it's not sustainable, right? Like I think you and I disagree about the state of the planet, but that I think that the way that ties into capitalist uh, consumption and production is not sustainable. I think that there's the way that right wing populism around the world is exploding. It's going to take over Europe soon. It's going to win here in November. I think it's that to me is going to lead to probably another world war. I think, and it's starting right now. So I think that there's some terrible things on the horizon if we don't try to make a more egalitarian society.
Well, you touch on a few things. No, I mean, there's like you said, this is a moving. This moment of time is you're seeing Javier Milei, right in Argentina, right?
Malay, yeah, I think that's how you
Yeah,
say it.
the libertarian
Yep.
individual is gaining so much popularity. You have people who are just angry, and everybody heard the same stuff. That World War III is going to break out when Trump is president. Yet the moment he leaves, Putin says, "Oh, I sense some weakness. Let me go in. Oh, let us see what happens with Israel and Palestine." All these wars break out because we have a weak leader. So I don't think it has anything to do with capitalism. It has to do with weak leadership. That is the at the helm here. Do you agree with that?
Uh, you think Trump stood up to Putin?
Absolutely. Did he make any moves? Did he invade anywhere while he was president? Yes or no?
Well, no. When was the invasion of Crimea? Was that under Obama? I guess
It
it was
was under
under Obama.
Obama. Yep.
Yeah.
2012, 2013. Is that right? Or somewhere in there.
Yeah, probably somewhere around there.
He invaded in,
Uh,
in Bush's years. He invaded in Obama's years. Yet there's still a 4 year period where he did nothing. He
yeah,
stayed
but
back because he feared
I
them.
mean, you could read that the other way, right? Like, they're clearly Trump and Putin have a bond. Okay, I'm not going to say that Putin has some kind of like tape on Trump or anything. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but they clearly have a bond, right? Like Trump took Putin's word over our own secret service, our own intelligence service about what this is in the summit in Helsinki. Like the CIA was like, no, Russia's doing this. He's like, no, Putin told me they're doing this, so I believe him. So like I think that Putin would not want to make Trump look bad. I think on that you're right. Now I don't think that's because of Trump's strength, but I
You
think
don't
there
think
is
so? Come on. If you
no.
look at the mafia, let's just break this down. Mafia bosses don't
Are you
make
really
moves.
comparing Trump to a
I'm just
mafia
talking about if
boss.
you're
That's
saying
what his
Putin's a really
critics
bad
do.
guy, if you're saying Putin's a bad guy, which I'm not a big fan of Putin at all, but I respect that he's smart. He's a very smart guy, right? Do you agree
Is
that
he?
he's a
Was
very
this
smart guy?
no? Was this invasion of Ukraine smart? He's worried about. Look at this, Mike. He's worried about NATO expansion. He invades Ukraine. What happens? NATO expands right to his border. It's
That's
like
that you
it's
have
like
the dates wrong.
no, I
They
don't. No, I don't.
they tried to expand into NATO tried to expand and then he made the move.
No,
Are you
no,
familiar
no,
with
no,
this?
I don't.
Kamala
No, no,
Harris.
no,
Kamala
no,
Harris
no,
is
no,
out there talking the moment she wins about this.
no, 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 no. Sweden and Finland were not going to go into NATO until the invasion of Ukraine. Sweden and Finland. Like, look, I understand there's this whole Noam Chomsky idea that NATO expansion into like Romania, Hungary, Poland is what actually triggered the invasion. I understand, and I don't think that's a crazy idea. I mean, I think there is something to that NATO expansion wasn't a great idea up to certain points, right? But it's clear that he invaded Ukraine trying to stop NATO expansion into Ukraine and into Norway and Sweden, and now I'm sorry, Finland and Sweden, and now NATO is in Finland and Sweden. So I do not grant that Putin is this smart guy. I just don't think so. I think
Okay.
he's a very self-destructive guy. Like
Uh
look at the Wagner stuff. Like he cultivates this power in this leader of Wagner, and then the guy ends up like trying to topple his
which
regime.
lasted what, a day and it was over, right?
No, it
I think it was
failed,
another
but
distraction.
by who?
Nothing happened, right? The guy, is that the guy that died in the plane
Yeah,
crash?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Putin killed him, but I mean, is that the sign of great intelligence and strength that that people are internally revolting against you, your own mercenaries?
Number
That seems
one,
like
the people of Russia love Putin, so he's got that. Maybe they fear him, but if you look at let's
no.
say
I
there were
agree.
fair
I agree.
elections,
I,
he
I
just
agree.
won
I
87% of the vote in Russia. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
oh, yeah, a couple days ago. Yeah.
So he's got the support of the people, whether that's real or not. I don't know. They probably fear him to some degree, but also they do support him. And the fact that he only made his move once the surface started to have sense of NATO expanding into Ukraine, right? So you could say there was an agreement they were about to break and he made the move, but he did not make the move under Trump, is really what I'm saying. Now, here's
No,
the last thing.
I don't. Just of course that's true, but the question is why didn't he? Right? Like, did he not want to make his buddy feel bad and look bad, or was he afraid of Trump? I don't think. I think. Come on, Putin is not afraid of Trump.
Come on.
It's just not.
And the reason why I
This
bring
is.
up mafia
It's
bosses,
funny.
because if you think Putin's a mafia boss to some degree, mafia bosses respect other mafia bosses and they respect them because they know they're dangerous, right? They could strike back at any time. And usually when a weak leader enters, then they make some moves and that's when they adjust some things. So if you really want to break it down into just those simple layman's terms, most people will not make a move that's going to rock the boat because they fear or respect. Fear or respect. Regardless, there was no death. There was no war. How it gets done is it doesn't matter. The fact that it just didn't happen, that's what matters. Am I right?
Well, I don't totally disagree with you. I mean, it is true that Trump did not start a war under his. Right? I mean, I think that's true. I think he's. I look. I'm the opposite of a Trump supporter. As should be
I
very
can
clear.
tell. I think everybody can tell at this
But
point.
I do think you're right that I don't think Trump is a warmonger. Like I think that separates him from previous incarnations of the Republican Party. Like I
Yes.
think Bush Jr. was clearly like driven to fight wars, and I
Yes.
think and Cheney behind him. And I think that Trump that is true. I think you have to give the devil his due. I think it is true that Trump is not a warmonger and thinks that war is stupid. Like I think he thinks like the way he says. I mean, this offends people in the military, obviously, but he's like that guy was what a fool that he died in war. Like he goes to these military cemeteries and he's like, those
Ah,
were
come
dupes.
on.
No, he
That's
has said it.
paraphrasing.
No,
He
no,
was
John
saying
Kelly
maybe
has
about
reported it. John
uh
Kelly reported it. He was right by his side. Look, I'm not. I'm saying this in support of him. He's saying like it's stupid to die in a war. I think that's probably true most of the time. It's probably true. I mean, like, wouldn't you say like the kids that died in Vietnam? That was stupid. That was a stupid death,
Vietnam.
right?
I think they were lied to. I think Vietnam was a lot of people
So then that
joined.
was a stupid death. It was stupid. They shouldn't have gone.
The people who were responsible for that are the same people who are responsible for the wars to this day. I mean, you're talking about LBJ days, right? You're talking about people who are uh, very big fans of profiting from war. You're talking about the military industrial complex,
Sure,
which hates
sure.
Trump. They hate Trump because they got poorer while he was in.
Okay, okay.
All right,
Yeah,
we're on. There we go.
there you go. You
And they're
wanted me to
getting
say I
richer
agree.
under Biden because they are the ones that reap the rewards from the printing of the money and
But
the war machine.
here's the question: do you think Netanyahu would have not enacted this? I don't know, eliminationist war against Gaza if Trump had been president?
I don't know. I don't know how Netanyahu would have responded if Trump was. I don't think these people would be going at it because they know. I think I personally believe all the leaders feared Trump to some degree. He's so unpredictable. But the fact that many people look at our leadership as just weak and they just say, well, America's not going to get involved. They'll just fund it because that's all they care about, right? Funding it. So I think people are more willing to make moves because of our weak leadership. So, in my opinion, what would Netanyahu do as Trump? I don't know, but I don't think anything would have broken out if Trump were here. And I think he'll be able to fix it in 24, November 5th, 2024,
Fix
pretty
it.
fast.
Gaza's destroyed. What's he going to do?
All right,
Is
so
he going
I
to
don't know
rebuild it?
much about the battles between, but I think it's a religious fight, right? And this has been going on for 2,000 years. I don't know how you solve it. I just think there's
Well, you
got to
just
be
said
some
Trump's
type.
going to solve it.
I don't know how he does it, but I think there's got to be some
What
type
is?
of
What did he
fear
solve? What
instilled.
world conflict did he solve?
I would say that he stopped the battle. North Korea and U.S. were having a big tussle at that time. So, what was the biggest threat? ISIS and North Korea. He solved both of those. I think what was it, 3 weeks, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
but he solved. What did he do? What was the solution? North Korea allow them to have nuclear weapons? That's a solution. I
Uh,
mean,
I, I I think he gained a friend, right? I think he went over there and created a respect that, listen, don't do shit or else, but also I'm here to not fight with you because he was the first president to walk on North Korean soil, right?
that's
I
correct.
believe
That's
ever. Is
correct.
that ever?
But now that is correct. But
Yeah.
North Korea now has nuclear weapons under Trump. They got them under Trump. So that
Uh,
doesn't bother you?
uh, I don't, I
Is
don't,
that strength? Is that strength?
uh,
Like we allow the this like hated enemy to get nuclear weapons that didn't have them?
I would
Iran
say
didn't
that,
have nuclear weapons. He gets out of the deal. Now Iran has nuclear weapons. Was that a good idea? I mean, like it seems like I don't know. This doesn't seem like strength to me. It doesn't seem like strength.
I
Look,
mean, they were
I'm
testing
with you
ballistic
on
missiles before, but they're allies with China and Russia. Am I right?
Iran. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're talking about now, I mean, a movement towards BRICS. You probably know that, but you're talking about the things that are getting set up. They're allies, Russia and China. China owns Joe Biden. We all know that. Am I right? He's going to do whatever. There's all kinds of crazy stories about how he went to University of Pennsylvania, received donations from China, and was able to reap millions of dollars the first year out of being a vice president. And so he's owned by China, and you're talking about the ally is North Korea. Will it be inevitable for them to get nukes whenever Russia and China has many nukes, right? Russia has the most.
but China did not necessarily want North Korea to have nuclear weapons. Like, think about it. Like, we're the ally of Mexico. We don't want Mexico to have nuclear weapons necessarily. Like, that doesn't. Like, I just think because a country is your ally doesn't mean you're going to give them nuclear weapons, does it? I mean, that just seems like a crazy. Like, we're allies of Brazil. We don't like, hey, we'll give you some nuclear weapons to have. Like, no. Like China, the last thing they wanted was North Korea to have nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I wish
Anyway,
I wish I knew the details of the agreement, but I haven't heard too much of North Korea recently. Have you?
no, but we're under Biden, aren't we? I thought Biden's president.
Yeah, well, I don't think he really
You're not
won,
giving
but
him credit
he,
for the
but
collapse of
regardless, when it comes to North Korea, have you heard much about North Korea?
no, but my point is, why aren't you giving Biden a little credit for that? Like
Well,
we're under Biden,
well,
and there's nothing
the
about North Korea.
problem was 2016. It's almost 8 years later. The problem happened in 2016. Since then, I have not heard much about North Korea. Remember, there was
Okay,
Little Rocket Man 2017. All of that went away. And now all of a sudden you got Russia. moving in as soon as Biden comes in. I don't know what North Korea is doing. I haven't been paying attention at all, but I know that war started breaking out, chaos started to ensue simply because of a change in presidency. And that's
I
why
just, how do you draw that conclusion? How do you
it
draw
was,
that
I
conclusion?
mean, it didn't happen almost overnight, like within months.
The Ukraine invasion? I don't know. It's like 2022, right?
Yeah.
So
So
that's
I thought it
that's
was
not
within eight
overnight.
months. I thought it was within 8 months or so, somewhere in
No,
there.
no,
But
it's over a year afterwards. So I don't think that can. I don't see how you can draw a causality. Like the U.S.
regardless,
isn't.
under presidents, Trump had zero issues with Russia moving in anywhere. But in every, what, three prior presidents, Russia did. And so you have this window in time. It's like, oh my God, it's clear as day. Oh my God, this is so great. We were right. Trump supporters, we were right. Also, inflation was extremely low when president was here. Also, the fact that we're not having this economic downturn happening right now. It didn't happen under Trump,
There's no
even with the
economic.
pandemic.
You're there was a huge downturn with the pandemic, but there's no downturn right now. What are you talking about? Like
Have you
under
looked?
Biden, there's been like unprecedented 3 years of economic growth. I'm not a Biden fan, but you should at least represent it,
Where are
right?
you seeing this data? The average family is spending at least $1,000 a month extra on
But they're
groceries.
making more than that,
No, they're
Pastor.
no, they're
Of course
not.
they are. Of course they are. Like it's anyway.
Oh, so look it up. But the average person, average family, $1,000 a month just on groceries. Look at the interest rates. It's becoming harder for people to buy real estate. So the poor and middle class are stuck. The wealthy are going to be generating more. You're talking about so much of a wealth gap being created because of what's happening. The moment you print money, which Biden has been loving, you increase the
Trump,
assets.
what are you talking about? The Trump tax cut was just a money printing exercise.
Trump's tax cuts went from 35% down to 21% for corporate tax, automatically instilling a reward for people to grow their businesses and hire more people.
But he didn't cut government spending at the same time. So all they did was print money then. So I mean, like what do you like there's no fiscal discipline on his part. Like you can't like come on, you can't hold up Trump as an example of fiscal discipline. Like it's the opposite.
The printing of money, I'm going to give you that. Trump handled two things poorly, in my opinion. Maybe he printed a little bit more than I would have liked, but also the fact of his handling of Operation, what was it, the creation of the vaccine in a week and a half. He was supported it. He still hired Fauci. He had Dr. Burke. All these people should have been gone. So I'm not a big supporter on those fronts. And I will say that the inflation is being really felt because of what Biden is doing with the printing, though. And maybe it does tie into what Trump did. I just see it's hitting people very, very hard right now. Are you noticing at all? Do you see it? Are you paying attention?
Well, what do you mean? Do I go to the grocery?
Are you
Yeah, like I
noticing
go
it
to
with other people, whether you're hearing? I'm just starting to see people struggle more so now than ever. And I think it has to do with some of the policies that they've enacted right out of the gate. So printing of money obviously is a very big factor. Do you see it at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't think people are struggling more than they did 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I don't
Wow.
see that.
Wow.
I don't see
I
that.
got to send you some articles. We're going to change your mind. Trust me. You're going
You're
to
not
jump
going to
on our
change my
side.
mind.
You're going to
Come
jump.
on, come on. No, don't waste your time, man.
Now here, I will say it's been interesting to talk with you. If you look it up though, just the price of groceries. If you just have that one aspect, I mean, even
Yeah, but you can't look. You cannot separate. See, this is the thing. Like your individualism doesn't permit a kind of what I would call dialectical thinking, which makes the connections between things. So, okay, you're paying more, but you're also making more. So you're the
who's making
make
more? You mean the
the
employee that's
average person. When you're talking about the price of groceries, you're talking about the average price of groceries, right?
yeah.
So I'm talking about the average salary of the average
So do you
person.
think
It
the
is
average person
significantly higher than it was. Those have gone up in parallel with inflation. So, I mean, look at any economic study. They all show it. So, I don't even care. I don't want to defend Biden. I don't care about that. but I'm just telling you. I mean, you should be honest about what is happening.
No, the average person did not make 60,000 and all of a sudden went up to 72,000, which actually that's not even the right math. It would have to go up to about 78 or $80,000. You'd have to get because of the tax cuts or the taxes that would be taken out. You're telling me that the average person made $18,000 more since Biden took over?
Whatever, it has coincided with the rate of inflation going up. There's an absolute parallel between those two.
Oh man. Oh, come on, Todd. We got to sit you down. I got to show you some documentaries. I got to give you some real books to
I
read.
don't want to read this kind of like all this conspiracy stuff, man. I don't. I just can't. I don't have time for that. I got to read Plato, which your listeners hopefully
Plato, you got to be set free. You're not paying attention to that allegory of the cave enough.
You
Just
don't
so
think
you
so?
know.
Yeah. Okay. 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 You said Plato's the secret capitalist. Great. It's great.
Hey,
I mean,
if
he would
there's
have.
anything we've learned is that Trump is good, Christ would love capitalism, and Plato is probably the first capitalist. Am I right?
Okay. There
That's
you
it.
go. Great. That's great. That's the lesson of my book for sure. I should never have come on, but it was nice to talk. It was nice to talk with you.
Hey, Todd, you are fun to talk to, even though you're on this other side of the tracks. I still like talking with you. Capitalism and desire, the psychic cost of free markets. Hey, next time, if you come on, all right, let's talk just about Freud, Nietzsche, and Carl Jung. All
Oh,
right.
I'd love to. That Freud and Nietzsche, I could talk about all day. So that would be we would just agree probably.
Beautiful. And
So
yeah, Carl
yeah.
Jung. You a
I'm
Carl
not
Jung
so
guy?
much a Jungian, so I'll have to convince you that why he betrayed Freud. Okay,
Oh, yeah. Well,
he was a Nazi too, you know.
you know what? Wasn't there, didn't he defect or did he go against all that? But he finally come out and say he was against a lot of the belief system?
Yeah,
I heard
yeah.
that too. I don't know much about his background, but
Yeah, he was a
incredible.
Nazi. Sad. Sad.
Well,
Freud, of
are you,
course, was a Jew. Fled the Nazis.
yeah. So are you familiar with Freud's, I think, what was it? His nephew? Was it Edward Bernays? Are you familiar with him at
Yeah,
all?
yeah. Bernays, yeah.
Yeah, Father of propaganda, father of
Exactly.
propaganda.
Yes. Yes.
Read that book. And if you don't
I
look
have
at
read
it,
that book.
okay,
I have
now
read.
that is the playbook of the Democrats, in my opinion, right? I look at that and I say, oh, well, it's basically marketers' dreams also. But when it comes to getting the doctors on your side and then groupthink mentality and obviously, class warfare, but it's basically making certain people believe a certain thing. It's so easy to see the propaganda out there in the media and how they say things with certain studies. Do you see any type of correlation?
Well, the most of the propaganda I see is pro-capitalist propaganda, frankly,
What the
isn't
hell?
it? I mean, that's all I see.
I
All
can
I
see
see.
where you're going from. Yeah, I mean, the beer's
Every
company.
what like beer, every advertisement you see on television is capitalist propaganda. Every television show is propaganda, capitalist propaganda. Almost every Hollywood film is capitalist propaganda. So, I mean,
You
if
see
there's
it.
a
It's there.
yeah, I mean, it's I mean, whatever. It's that's we live in a capitalist society. You would expect that. That's what we get. So.
But you just don't want to give the power to the state to control media, right? And
Better the state than Elon Musk. That's what I would say.
oh man.
That's what I would
Oh
say, man.
no, we got to get on the Elon topic. Anyways, I'm going to be running out of time. We got to shift your mind. You got to turn off the news, read some Rich Dad
I
Poor
don't.
Dad,
Yeah, yeah,
listen to
yeah.
my podcast. Give it 5, 10 years. You're going to be right as rain.
Okay, well, let's talk about Freud next time. So
Okay,
that'll.
good deal.
Okay, all right,
Guys, check
all right.
out Todd McGowan, fun guy. And if you like this podcast and you say, man, I want to let Todd know what I think about his anti-capitalist beliefs, you could probably reach out to him on LinkedIn. But anyways, no hate mail. We like this guy, even though he's not a Trumper. Anyways, Todd, thank you so much for being
Thanks,
here,
thanks
man.
a
It's
lot.
been fun to talk with
Take
you.
care, man. Okay, take care.
Remember,
See ya.
guys, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life.